Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku had Meliodas' powers as Quirk and got rejected by Uraraka movie. Before we start, please go support MeliodasElReyDemonio for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Deku is a male. Izuku is cruelly rejected by Uraraka, breaking his heart, and he will embark on a new adventure of knowledge and power to recover from what happened. Chapter: The Sad Reality. Before starting, I want to clarify that this story is not for you to hate any character that will appear. It is just a story invented by any fan. Without anything else to say, let's begin. All of Izuku's friends were there, along with Izuku, hiding behind a wall, and with Izuku who was sweating profusely. "Come on Izuku, don't let this opportunity go to waste," Mina said happily. "Yes, it's now or never," said Momo, equally happy. "Come on Izuku, you can do it," Kirishima told him excitedly. "Don't be so nervous," Midoriya said Todoroki, and so all his other friends from his class encouraged him. Why? Well, nearby Uraraka was waiting since one of her friends had told her to wait for her in that place, but in reality she had placed her in that place so that Midoriya could confess. Author's note. I don't know why, but I'm nervous. Izuku was very nervous, almost unable to move, but at any moment his former best friend Bakugo would push him, and so Izuku and Uraraka would see each other, while the other students thanked Bakugo for doing that, and everyone hid and watched what was going to happen. "Hello Deku-kun," said Uraraka happily. "Oh hello Uraraka-san," said Meliodas, more nervous than a nerve in his body XD. "Why are you here, Deku-kun?" Uraraka asked, confused. It's that I want to tell you something," said Izuku, all red. "What do you want to tell me?" asked Uraraka, to which Izuku sighed and said. "Who do you want to be my girlfriend?" said Izuku, spilling everything while he looked at the floor waiting for Uraraka's answer, but a few seconds would pass and she wouldn't respond. Izuku, confused, would look at Uraraka and she would say. "No, I don't want to be your girlfriend," said Uraraka with a serious face. Upon hearing that, Izuku would feel like his heart had broken into 1,000 pieces like a mirror falling to the ground. While all of Izuku's friends would be surprised and speechless when they heard Uraraka's answer, Izuku, still looking at the ground, would say. "It's okay Uraraka-san, it's okay," Izuku said with a muffled voice, and after that he would run away from the place. The others, upon seeing that, would come out of hiding, wanting to go look for Izuku, but he was already too far away since he used One for All to escape. Note. This story takes place after the Almight vs. All for One fight. The boys would look seriously at Uraraka, who looked a bit sad, and everyone would go look for Izuku, while the women went with Uraraka. "Why did you say no? We thought you liked him," Mina said sadly. Uraraka, looking at the floor while some tears came out, would say. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, it wasn't my intention. I do want to be with Deku-kun, but for now I can't because I have to concentrate on being a heroine," said Uraraka, crying. "But you shouldn't have told him that way. Besides, love isn't a hindrance, it's something beautiful that everyone should have said." Sai sad for her friend, and so they all started talking after about 15 minutes, and all the other boys would arrive with them, telling them that Izuku still hadn't arrived, to what Uraraka would think that it was all her fault. The next day they all noticed that Izuku didn't come to class, and when they left they all went to Yue's rooms to see if Izuku was in his room, but when Todoroki opened the door, he would see an envelope on Izuku's bed, so they all entered, and Todoroki would read the letter. "Hey guys, if you're reading this, it's because I disappeared and I wanted to tell you that I won't be back for a while. Don't try to find me because I went to a place where no one has ever been before, so what I wanted to tell you is that I'm saying goodbye and I'll be back for a while. I've decided to leave because I wanted to free myself from all those emotions that hurt me and be able to train to be the hero I always wanted. Well, with this letter I say goodbye to everything. Goodbye friends," Todoroki read, to which everyone would be surprised to hear that, while Uraraka was sadder than ever. "This is all my fault. If I hadn't told him no, this wouldn't have happened. Please Izuku, come back so I can apologize," Uraraka thought sadly. This way the students would warn the heroes and they would start searching for Izuku throughout the city, but he didn't appear. After a few weeks without Izuku, everyone was in very bad shape, but the most devastated were All Might, his mother Inko, and Uraraka. Meanwhile, Izuku found himself in a place where almost everything was completely dark and in front of him were creatures of colossally large size. "I have arrived, the Dark Continent, this is where my training begins," said Izuku, smiling. A year has passed, and at this moment we see Izuku fighting with an incredibly giant creature without an arm. The battle was very fierce, a very bloody Izuku with a more mature face, he was in front of the monster's face and throwing a super blow, destroying his head without leaving anything of him. He would fall to the floor and say. "It's time, I have to go home," Izuku said to himself with a serious face, while he looked at his hand and found some torn clothes, so he decided to put on new ones. He would snap his fingers and wear new clothes. This is Izuku 1 year later. And that is his suit. While Izuku fought against the creatures of the Dark Continent for a whole year without resting in the UA class, they were all very upset for losing a great friend, but little by little everything was returning to normal, except for Uraraka who was still waiting for Izuku, so a year would pass where many terrible things would happen with the villains, but in the end the heroes would win. The students were already in their second year, and very little they continued with the hope that Izuku would return, so they would continue with their lives normally. Well, Izuku had already arrived in Japan, and he would go to where his mother lived. When he arrived at his old apartment he would knock on the door, and a man would come out confusing Izuku. "Good afternoon, how can I help you, young man?" the gentleman asked kindly. "Is Mrs. Midoriya there?" said Izuku with a serious face. "Sorry young man, but only I live here, but I heard that a lady lived here before, so I'm probably the person you're looking for," the man said kindly, to which Izuku would say goodbye and decide to go to Bakugo's mother's house, since at this time he would have to be at the academy and his mother would have to be with her husband. Upon arriving, Bakugo's mother would be surprised to see him and would tell him that his mother, after a few months of him disappearing, committed suicide since she couldn't bear not being with her son. Izuku, upon hearing that, would feel his heart close even more to the world, so he would say goodbye to Bakugo's mother and decide to go to UA to see Almight. He would wait outside the school, waiting for everyone to leave. Minutes later all the students would leave the schools to go home, but his classmates, when they saw Izuku sitting next to the entrance of the academy, they would be surprised and they would go to Asia, but out of nowhere a boom would be heard in the distance. Izuku would be surprised when he heard that. He would look to the side and be shocked to see a monster from the Dark Continent in the middle of the city. This was a monster of colossal size. Chapter: Fight against Titans. Before starting, I wanted to clarify that when Izuku lost his arm and obtained a mechanical one, he obtained a dark power that he still doesn't control, and he also has one for all mastered 100%. Let's begin. Izuku had returned to Japan, more specifically to his city, and upon learning that his mother had died, he went to where Almight was, and that place was the UA Academy. He would arrive waiting for all the students to leave, and after about 30 minutes, everyone would leave, but his former classmates would recognize him, but at that same moment, a loud swoosh would be heard all around. Everyone would look towards the city and see a giant monster much bigger than the largest building in the city. The monster with a terrifying and imposing voice would say, "Where are you, Izuku Midoriya?" Well, all the people ran very far away and many heroes would try to do something to the Titan, but not a scratch. They did not even give importance to the Titan until heroes appeared that could become big, but that was only like the giant's foot, so this one, feeling a tickle in his foot, would move it a little, creating a gust of wind destroying everything in front. While Izuku was in the distance looking at him seriously, while all the students and people ran away in fear, all his classmates would try to go after Izuku, but he would take a great leap towards the monster, surprising his classmates. Izuku would arrive where the title was, seeing himself face to face. Izuku was standing with a completely serious face and saying, "What the hell are you doing here?" Izuku would say seriously, "I come here to destroy you for killing my comrades. I have come here to avenge them, and by orders of my superiors," the giant would say with his voice that could be heard throughout the city. "I won't allow you to kill humans for your stupid revenge," said Izuku, preparing himself. "I will kill all of your kind like you did to mine," said the giant, throwing a punch at Izuku, who, jumping and with a kick, would return the punch, but the giant with his other 3 hands would try to hit Izuku, who would manage to dodge it by going up the giant's arm, giving a great jump. The giant would try to hit Izuku with 2 of his hands, but they would be cut off by Izuku, who, thanks to his mechanical arm, managed to materialize a sword with the darkness. The giant would step back and say, "Damn demon, you are the worst guy I know," the furious giant would say. "This is what you turned me into. I am your creation," he said seriously, looking at the ground. The giant would try to crush Izuku with his foot, but Izuku with his speed would dodge the attack and climb a building that was almost collapsed. "I'll give you a chance to leave," said Izuku seriously. "Stop talking nonsense," said the giant, trying to attack Izuku, but he quickly kicked him in the chest, sinking and falling to the ground, destroying half the city. "What do you prefer? To die or to leave here right now?" Izuku asked with a face that scared the giant monster. "Stop joking, I'll kill you, I'll kill each and every one of the humans," said the monster, but Izuku would decapitate him without letting him finish speaking. "I gave you a chance and you didn't take advantage of it, stupid," said Izuku seriously. He would get off the giant and see a lot of people where they would start to applaud and congratulate him. Izuku didn't care about that, so he would make some wings of darkness and fly out of there quickly, leaving everyone surprised. Izuku would go to a mountain while all the people and heroes, seeing that the giant had died, would return to the city, but it was almost all destroyed, so some heroes would start to help build the city again, like Professor Cementos and many others. While Izuku's old friends had seen everything, they knew that Izuku had killed the giant, but they were really surprised without being able to say anything, and so the television would begin to interview people who could see who killed the giant. They all said the same thing, a green-haired boy with a mechanical arm. The next day all the heroes continued to rebuild the city, while the students would return to the UA Academy. Everyone would already be in their courses, but Izuku would enter the academy, and feeling the energy of All Might would go to him. He would open the door of the classroom, and the only thing he would notice is All Might, but he was teaching classes in 2B, which is the same room where Izuku's old classmates were. Everyone when they realized Izuku's account would say, "Izuku Midoriya." Everyone would shout, but Izuku didn't even see them. All Might seeing him couldn't hold back his joy and went to hug him, to which Izuku wouldn't move and would let himself be spoken to. All the other students went towards him, to which All Might would leave him on the floor again, but Izuku seeing that all the students were approaching with a serious voice would say, "Don't get confused, I didn't come here to talk to you, I only came to talk to All Might," said Izuku with an emotionless face. At that moment everyone realized how much Izuku had changed, but the most affected was Uraraka, who felt her heart ache, since when she finally saw her beloved, he saw them all as scum. All Might would agree to talk to Izuku, and so they would go to another room without students. While all the boys when Izuku left would start talking about how much he changed since he changed. Meanwhile Izuku and All Might would arrive at a room where they would sit down, and the first to speak would be Izuku. "I already know about my mother," he would say, looking at the floor while his hair hid his face. "I'm sorry young Midoriya, I wanted to tell you," but said All Might, being interrupted by Izuku. "You don't have to apologize, it wasn't your fault," said Izuku with a cold voice, to what All Might, worried, would say. "What happened to you, young Midoriya? You weren't like that," All Might would say, sad for his former student. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you, are you willing to believe what I tell you?" Izuku would say, still with his cold voice. "Of course young Midoriya, you know you can always trust me," said All Might with a sad smile, to which Izuku would tell him about Uraraka's rejection, until he arrived at the Dark Continent fighting against beings even bigger than the one that came to the city, and that during that entire year, he was feeding on the monsters he killed, and water that was contaminated, in addition to the different climatic changes that he had to endure, and the thousands of fights he had, and now he is literally immune to everything. He is not affected by the cold or the heat or any climatic change. He also does not feel pain and can eat anything, even monsters, and that he could also control 100% of One for All, and even improve it a lot more, and he also got a dark power with his mechanical arm, telling him how he consumed it and how he lost his original arm, and with that new arm, he can materialize some things and regenerate a little when he got it, but after the thousands of battles that he was the regeneration was improving. And how I arrive here again. All Might hearing all that was in shock, since that continent was much worse than here, and from what Izuku told him, if he went to that place, he would die instantly even in his best moment, with the One for All in his body. But Izuku also explained that not even he knows how he could survive so long in that place. Also explaining that he had many enemies, and that there were 5 leaders with a bestial power millions of times more than the giant who attacked the city, and that they probably sent that giant monster. All Might was speechless. He would not know how to define what Izuku had to live, and understanding why he was so cold with everyone. Chapter Revelations. All Might, upon hearing everything Izuku had to go through, would understand why he is so cold and so powerful, but at the same time he was surprised, since Izuku fought against beings that not even he, in his prime, with One for All, could defeat. "I believe you young Midoriya, I will give you a home so you can live now that your mother is gone," he told him. "All May. Thanks All Might, if it weren't for you I don't know what would have happened to me," said Izuku, looking at the ground while tears came out of his eyes. "If you hadn't given me One for All I wouldn't be where I am now. It's all thanks to you All Might, I'll be the hero that you and my mother always wanted," said Izuku, crying as All Might approached him, hugged him and said, "You don't have to be thankful young Midoriya, be a hero and defend this world like number one," said All Might. After a while, Izuku would be leaving the academy, while All Might would return to class, and they would see that everyone was silent looking at him. "That?" I would ask All Might. "What did Midoriya-kun say to you?" asked Lita. "I'm sorry but I can't tell you, it would be better if you asked him, but there's something I have to tell you, he's a little sensitive right now, so don't bother him too much," said All Might, making everyone nod. Meanwhile you see Izuku walking with his eyes closed, since he was training his ability to feel the presence of everything around him, so he would reach some mountains, and the sun would begin to set, making it night. Izuku would climb to the top of the mountain, and would get into the lotus position, and would begin to float a few centimeters. So Izuku would be in that position all night, holding back the power of darkness in his body so it wouldn't get out of control. The next day Izuku would feel like it was dawn and would open his eyes and start walking towards the city. He continued training his ability to feel the presence of everything around him, feeling many people, insects and others. But out of nowhere he would feel a hand on his shoulder, and he would feel that behind him there were many presences, so he would open his eyes and turn around, seeing Kirishima touching Izuku's shoulder with a worried face, and behind him all the other students from his old class. "Huh? What do you want?" Izuku would ask with his emotionless voice. "We want to talk to you," Midoriya-kun, Lita would say, worried about her friend. I have nothing to talk to you about, Izuku would say, turning around and about to leave, but he would see Todoroki in front of him. Just listen to us a little, Midoriya, Todoroki would say worriedly. Izuku would sigh. What do you want? He would ask, turning around. What happened to you? Could you tell us? Kirishima would ask. This is not the right place, Izuku would say, looking away to what Momo would say. Let's go to my house, Izuku-kun, Momo would say, to which everyone would head towards Momo's house. Well, Izuku didn't say a single word until they would arrive at Momo's house, entering a room where there was no one. There Izuku would tell him the same thing he told All Might and how he lost his spleen and his new power, but he wouldn't tell him anything about One for All and would only tell them that he gained a brutal brute force. To which everyone, the more the story progressed, the more they would be surprised and saddened until Izuku would finish, seeing some with some tears in their eyes. I'm sorry for opening up to you, Izuku, Kirishima would say sadly. I already told you everything, now I'm leaving, said Izuku, standing up and turning his back on her, but he would hear a voice that he would recognize very well. Wait, Deku-kun, Uraraka would say sadly, while tears came out of her eyes. What do you want? Izuku would say with his cold voice, even with his back to her. Could you forgive me, asked Uraraka, but Izuku interrupted her. I have nothing to forgive you for. I should thank you because thanks to you, I was able to obtain this power to be the hero I always wanted, said Izuku, but in exchange for that I lost everything, my mother, my feelings, my friend, said Izuku, who looked a bit angry while clenching his fists to the point of bleeding. Everyone seeing that would be worried, but Izuku would start to walk. Wait, Midoriya, Todoroki said, to which Izuku would stop to listen to what Todoroki would say to him. We are still friends, so you can count on us whenever you want, Todoroki would say, to which Izuku, without saying anything, would leave the house, leaving all his friends sad and worried. Hey Bakugo-kun, you should talk to him, they will surely listen to you, since you have been friends since elementary school, Mina said to Bakugo, who looked away with his typical angry face. I'm sure that guy hates me, so from what he told us, if he gets out of control, he could kill us all with that darkness he mentioned, Bakugo would say, looking away, to which everyone would understand, while Uraraka was still devastated by what Izuku said. What is that place called, the Dark Continent that I mentioned? Sai would ask curiously. According to what he told us, it is a place that only a few people have managed to enter and leave alive, and he also mentioned that the world we know is only a small part of the real world, said Denki. That's incredible, how could Midoriya know that place? Momo would say curiously. That place is where Deku was born, said Bakugo angrily, but leaving everyone shocked. What do you mean by that, Bakugo? Kirishima would ask, surprised. What don't you hear? Bakugo said, as always, shouting, that's where Deku was really born, but when he was a baby his father, who is from that continent, brought him to this part of the world, and that's where his mother raised him. But Izuku remembered everything, even though he was a baby he could remember everything about that place, and that's how he grew up, and that's when he told me. I never believed it, so since he didn't have a quirk I hid him, but now that I know what he said was true, I have to be more careful, Bakugo said seriously, leaving everyone surprised. That's incredible, so only he knows how to get to that place, said Kirishima, still surprised like the others, while Izuku headed towards All Might's house since the day before he told him where he lived. When he arrived he would knock on the door and All Might would attend to him. Hello young Midoriya, come in, said All Might, to which Izuku would enter, seeing All Might's super mansion from the inside, surprised but without showing it. What can I do for you, young man? Would say All Might, to which Izuku would look at him and say. I just came to talk, Izuku said with his cold voice. Sure, young Midoriya, what do you want to talk about? Asked All Might. I'm leaving the city, said Izuku, surprising All Might. But why? Asked All Might. Because if I stay, more of those giants will keep coming, and I don't want anyone to die because of me, said Izuku seriously. Wait young Midoriya, think about it carefully, now that those monsters know where you are, they will continue to come here, but if you leave, you will no longer be here to defeat those giants, and they would end up destroying the city, and even the entire country, said All Might, worried, to which Izuku would be surprised and would start to think about what All Might said. You're right, All Might, I knew it was a good idea to come here, said Izuku, to which All Might would smile at what Izuku said. And young Midoriya, do you want to return to UA? All Might would ask, surprising Izuku. But I don't think I can anymore, said Izuku. Of course, you know Izuku, the day you left school only marked you absent, but at no time did it kick you out, so that means you can come back whenever you want, All Might said happily. But I'll have to start over in the first year, said Izuku, bored. Of course not, young Midoriya, the whole city knows that you were the one who finished off that monster, so surely the principal will let you go to second year with your friends, said All Might, to which Izuku would look away and say. Okay, I hope those monsters don't attack anymore, said Izuku, making All Might smile. Chapter Big Fight. Izuku, agreeing with All Might that he would re-enter UA, would stay all night in All Might's mansion, meditating in his room since Izuku can resist for several weeks without sleeping and not get tired. The next day the green-haired man is seen walking towards UA, and when he is close, he sees a teacher who would take the two to the principal's room, and upon arriving the principal would recognize Izuku as a student he had before and the hero who defeated the giant that was destroying the city. Good morning, the director would say to the two who would return the greeting, one with a cold voice and the other with a happy voice. Good morning, Mr. Principal. I came to ask if student Midoriya could re-enter UA. All Might said. Of course, here we accept everyone who is a hero, said the white animal. Thank you, Mr. Director, said All Might happily. Then go to the class you were in last year, only now you'll be in second year, said the director, and he would start walking there. When he arrived he would open the door and see Professor Asawa. Note. Let's say that Asawa also teaches them in the second year. Everyone would be surprised when they saw him, just like Asawa, since it was the first time he had seen him in a long time. Midoriya, what are you doing here? The teacher would ask, somewhat confused. I came to take classes, Izuku would say with his cold voice. Did you go back to UA? Okay, go take a seat, said Professor Asawa, to which Izuku would go and sit next to the window where there was no one, so Professor Asawa would start teaching, but Izuku didn't pay attention in the slightest, instead he was looking outside thinking. Where are you, father? I went looking for you, but I couldn't find you anywhere in that damned place, Izuku said thoughtfully, referring to the Dark Continent. Hey Midoriya, are you paying attention? The teacher would say, but Izuku wouldn't look at him, which would make Aizawa angry using his quirk. Izuku, realizing that they were looking at him badly, would slowly turn to Aizawa and give him an even more terrifying face, with a terrible thirst for blood. Everyone seeing that murderous face and feeling that thirst for blood would shit themselves, but especially Aizawa, since he would see those totally cold eyes and get scared, deactivating his power. Did you tell me something? Izuku would ask with a voice so cold that it froze everyone's blood. No, let's continue with the class, students, Aizawa would say, to which Izuku would return to his normal emotionless face looking outside, and Aizawa would continue with the classes, but in the middle of Aizawa's talk, a super explosion would be heard collapsing one of the tallest buildings in the city. All the citizens would see that and would get scared, while the UA students wondered what was happening, but Izuku would feel a familiar power, so he would stand up looking with a serious face fixedly towards the place where the building was destroyed. Everyone in the class would look at him, and Aizawa would say. What are you doing, Midoriya? I would ask. I'm leaving here, said Izuku, disappearing as if he were a magician, surprising everyone, but Aizawa would quickly go to warn the teachers, but another explosion would be heard, and another building would be destroyed, and the whole city would start to panic, while Izuku was going at great speed towards where he felt that power, and would see many people running. When he arrived he would see that beast that seemed familiar to him. So it's a Cerberus, huh? Izuku would say seriously, preparing to fight. Cerberus? A type of dog about 20 meters long with 3 heads, very rabid and destructive, but this time it only had 2 heads. The monster dog would speak without opening any of its 3 mouths. We meet again, Midoriya, Izuku, but this time it will be different. I will tear your head off just like you did to me, the Cerberus would say, jumping, wanting to bite Izuku in the face, but with a quick movement he would appear behind the Cerberus, grabbing him by the tail and starting to slam him against the ground many times and then throwing him towards a building. What's wrong? When we fought last time, you were stronger, said Izuku, showing a small smile. Damn human, I'll finish you off right here, said the Cerberus, coming out of the rubble and beginning to transform, making fire come out of his body and becoming even bigger with an incredibly dark thirst for blood. What the hell? Where did you get that power from? Izuku said seriously. This is my power as a true Cerberus, and right now I will destroy you, and this entire small continent, said the Cerberus with a very terrifying voice, and at great speed would attack Izuku, who could not dodge, and the only thing he could do was defend himself with his mechanical arm, but would be damaged to what Izuku would try to hit him with his other arm to the head that bit his arm, but the other head of the Cerberus would bite his hand. Izuku would show a grimace of pain, but with his mechanical hand, he would create a sphere of darkness, and the Cerberus, seeing that, would move away. You're crazy, stupid human, you can't control that power, said the furious dog. Why not? I can control it a little better now, said Izuku. If you keep using that power there will come a time when you will lose control and destroy everything in your path, said the Cerberus, wanting to attack Izuku, but a hero would appear who could create energy fields enclosing the Cerberus. What are you doing, stupid? Get out of here. Izuku said, shouting, but the Cerberus would break the shield as if it were a paper, about to kill the hero, but Izuku would quickly kick the Cerberus, moving it a few meters away. Get out of here before you die and tell everyone not to come closer, said Izuku, to which the very scared hero would nod and run away. Very heroic of you, isn't it? Said the Cerberus as he walked around Izuku. You're not like that with anyone else, but that person, said the Cerberus, but Izuku would interrupt him. Shut up, stupid dog, and fight, said Izuku, looking angrily at the Cerberus. "Do not compare me with that inferior animal," said the Cerberus, going to attack Izuku and being centimeters away from him. He would hit him with his tail that was heavier than a complete building, but Izuku would manage to dodge it by crouching and giving him a blow to the stomach, sending him up to the sky at great speed. Izuku would quickly get on top of the Cerberus with a jump, grabbing him by the tail and throwing him with brutal force against the ground, stamping. Quickly and without wasting a second, Izuku would fall on top of the Cerberus, who was temporarily knocked out, and he would scratch another head, leaving only one. The Cerberus, feeling that pain, would wake up and would try to bite Izuku's head, but he would barely dodge it. "Damn you," said the furious Cerberus, getting even bigger but losing control. "It seems you are losing consciousness. That will make you more invulnerable," said Izuku, but without saying a word the Cerberus would attack Izuku, who in his eyes was slower than the Cerberus, so he would easily dodge it, and the Cerberus would continue to attack Izuku repeatedly, who dodged the attacks very easily, until in one of those the Cerberus would attack Izuku, and he would move a few centimeters to the side, and with his hands, he would take the Cerberus's head, trying to tear it off, but the Cerberus would begin to move in a brutal way, going through houses and buildings, so that Izuku would let go, but he would not let him escape for anything in the world, so with one movement Izuku would manage to break the Cerberus's neck, who would fall to the ground. Without wasting another second, Izuku would quickly tear off his head just in case. The helicopters that were recording this great fight would announce that the Cerberus had already been killed, and all the people would start to come back. Chapter: A Great Day. After Izuku defeated Cerberus, many people would go to where Izuku was and would start congratulating him, but he didn't care, so in a flash, he would disappear and appear at the entrance of the academy. "You don't have to attack me, it's what a true hero should do, not like the ones in the city," said Izuku, whispering as he walked inside the academy. He would enter and feel the presence of all the students in one place. He would go and find what seemed to be a basement behind a door. He would open it and see a giant room and all the students and teachers inside. "What are you doing here?" Izuku asked, and any student would speak. "Are you stupid or what?" "We're hiding from that monster that's destroying the city," said the student, to which Izuku would stare at him, and suddenly boom, everyone would see how Izuku was in front of the student with his fist in his stomach, while a little blood came out of his mouth, falling to the floor, fainted, and in a blink Izuku would return to where he was before. "You can leave now, I already took care of that monster," said Izuku with his cold voice, surprising everyone, while Izuku turned around and started to leave, and behind him all the teachers and students came out. "Wait, young Midoriya, did you defeat the beast that was destroying the city?" asked Almight. "Yes, it was a Cerberus that came for revenge, but it's already dead," said Izuku. "Thank you for saving the city, young Midoriya," said Almight, smiling. "You don't have to thank me, it's what I do," said Izuku, walking towards his classroom, and the teacher's voice could be heard. "Very well, listen to me everyone, we will continue with the classes, so go back to your classrooms," said the director to all the students, who would start going to their classes just like the teachers, and All Might stayed talking to the director. Izuku would enter his class sitting where he was before, and behind him came all his classmates and Asawa. "You're incredible, Midoriya, you took care of that monster by yourself," said Asawa, but Izuku wouldn't answer, but all his classmates were still surprised, while Uraraka was waiting for the opportunity to talk to Izuku alone. At the exit all the students were leaving the academy, and as always Izuku would start walking alone without any direction, but minutes after he left class, he would hear a voice that he would recognize very well. "Izuku-kun," said Uraraka behind the green-haired boy. "What do you need?" Izuku asked, looking at Uraraka. It's just that Uraraka stuttered nervously, being heard by Izuku. "I want you to forgive me for having rejected you when you confessed," Uraraka said. "I already told you there's nothing to apologize for," said Izuku, turning around and about to leave, "but I like you, Izuku-kun," Uraraka would say with some tears on her face, to which Izuku, without being surprised, would turn around and say, "Well, you told me otherwise when I confessed," Izuku would say, seeing how tears came out of Uraraka's eyes. "That time you confessed, I rejected you because I wanted to concentrate on my studies, but I liked you since I saw you," said Uraraka sadly. "I don't care, my emotions disappeared, I don't feel anything for anyone anymore, besides the past is the past," said Izuku, looking ahead and starting to walk, leaving Uraraka crying very sadly. Why am I so stupid? If I hadn't rejected him, this wouldn't have happened, and Izuku would still be the same as always," said Uraraka very sadly, watching Izuku disappear from her sight. A few hours later Izuku is seen on top of a building at night. "I don't need anyone but her," said Izuku, remembering when he was in the Dark Continent where he met his first and last love. "Why the hell did that have to happen?" said Izuku, looking at the ground, and would begin to meditate. The next day he would realize that it was dawn and would stop meditating, watching the people walk through the streets, and he would take a big jump, starting to fall, and when he hit the ground, a lot of dust would rise, making a small crater, but nobody would get hurt. People wanted to see who it was, but when the dust dispersed there was no one there. Well, Izuku was already very far from that place heading to the academy. When he arrived he would not see anyone since it was still very early. But this is what he wanted. He would enter the academy, since the doors were open, since the director and some teachers and guards were inside the academy. He would begin to walk through the hallways running into All Might, who would say, "Hello young Izuku, I would like you to follow me to the director's room." All Might would say, to which Izuku would nod, and the two upon arriving at the room would see the director, and these two would sit down. "Very well young Midoriya, me and All Might have been talking, and we are very grateful for saving the city twice, and we already know that other beasts will come, so All Might and me talked about knowing your strength, so we have prepared a test for you to fight against someone, so would you like to show us your strength?" The director would ask. "Anyway, I want to see who they'll make me fight against," Izuku would say, to which All Might and the direct would be happy, and they would take Izuku to the same small city where a long time ago he had taken the test and had used one for all for the first time, destroying the 0-point robot. "What? Are they going to make me fight the 0-point robot?" Izuku would say, bored. "Of course not young man, this time we will bring out the forbidden robot. This machine has not been used with anyone other than All Might on one occasion, and he almost died." The director would say the problem with not being able to use it against villains is that it gets out of control and starts destroying everything, said the director, to which Izuku would say, "Okay, let me fight that machine," said Izuku, going to the city, and with a jump he would enter and put himself in the middle of everything. "Very well, activated," said the director to a person who would temporarily control the robot. "The only way to stop that robot is to destroy it," said the director through a microphone being heard by Izuku. "But we can also deactivate it from a button we have," said the director to himself in his mind. Suddenly Izuku would see in the distance a robot of the same size approaching him. Being a little closer to it, he would see that the robot was much bigger and with a sword that seemed very sharp. "This doesn't look anything like a robot," Izuku said, looking determinedly at the robot. "Come for me if you can," said Izuku, but in the control room where All Might and the director were along with the person who controlled the robot, he would say, "Oh no sir, it's gotten out of control, and the off button doesn't work," the person said to the director, who would get nervous. "Or not, damn it," said the director taking the microphone. "Listen to me young student, you have to destroy the robot since it got out of control, and we can't stop it," said the director to Izuku, who would listen to him. "So no one is controlling you anymore, it's okay, you don't have to hold back anymore, come with everything," said Izuku, and the robot at great speed would go to attack Izuku with his sword, but he would put his robot arm and the sword would break in two. All Might and the director upon seeing this would be shocked, but the robot with his other hand would hit Izuku in the face with all his strength, but would not move Izuku even a centimeter, who with his hand would grab the robot's wrist and would begin to crush it, removing it from his face, and then Izuku would appear behind the giant robot and would decapitate it, and the body would fall to the ground. The director and All Might were speechless since he finished off the robot with tremendous ease. "That's all? Apparently you're very weak. Hey director, do you still have more of these robots?" Izuku would say, looking at a camera, and the director would answer, "Yes, we have more left," he would say, still surprised. "Okay, take out as many as you can," Izuku would say. Chapter A figure appears. In the previous part, Izuku had told the director to take out more of the robots that would give problems to All Might even in their best moments, but they were very unstable and got out of control, that is why they were not used against villains. The director, seeing what Izuku was capable of, would accept, and many robots would begin to come out of a secret door that was in the ground and all out of control would go to attack Izuku, who would begin to dodge and destroy the robots very easily, leaving the spectators surprised. But Izuku in one of those would feel that he was hit by a robot in the face, and as he was a little off guard, he would send him flying crashing into a building where all the rubble would fall on him. Izuku, who was still under the rubble with his eyes closed, would wait a few seconds, and after that Izuku would open his eyes, showing pure darkness in them, where an explosion would occur, destroying the robots that were near him. After the dust has cleared, Izuku would be seen with a demonic mark and an aura that would intimidate All Might and the director. "I'll get paid for it, stupid junk," said Izuku, creating a sphere of darkness and throwing it at the robots who were going to attack him. All the robots would be completely destroyed, reduced to nothing but ashes. While All Might and the director were totally shocked to see that scene, Izuku would deactivate his darkness and looking at his hands he would say in a whisper, "No, I mustn't use this power here or I'll get out of control," said Izuku, getting angry at himself. "Hey director, I have to go," said Izuku looking at the camera seriously. "Yes of course, you can leave now," said the director stuttering while he spoke to Izuku through a microphone that the green-haired boy would hear. Midoriya, activating his wings of darkness, would fly away at great speed, leaving. He would be going towards some mountains at a high speed, and upon arriving he would immediately become enraged and begin to meditate. Meanwhile All Might and the director would be talking about how powerful Izuku would be, but that he could also get out of control, but they would feel how they would begin to tremble, and would hear a voice. "Izuku, Midoriya, I've come for you." If you don't come, I'll destroy this entire city immediately," said a monster that apparently also came from the Dark Continent. This was about 20 meters long. Some heroes wanted to go and finish him off, but anyone who got close ended up dead with a single blow. Everyone was waiting for Izuku to arrive, but he didn't appear. The green-haired boy was meditating, because if he moved he could get out of control, since the darkness was taking over him, and he would hear what the enemy had said, but he didn't give it importance and continued meditating, because if he was going to fight with him, he would surely get out of control. But he would feel how many presences disappeared because of the monster, so he was very angry with the monster. He would stand up, and his eyes were totally white. It seemed as if he had lost control, and he took a big leap heading to where he feels the presences disappear. This one at a great speed would get behind the monster. This one, upon sensing Izuku's presence, would be surprised turning around, but would receive a super kick that would send him crashing into a building. The centaur would come out of the rubble of the building very angry and would say, "Damn, you've finally arrived. I'm bored of killing these weak creatures," said the angry centaur, going to attack Izuku, but with a few movements of his arms, he would tear off the centaur's arms. Seeing that, he would get angry and turn around to hit him with his legs, but that was his worst mistake, since Izuku would end up tearing his head off with a quick movement, and then he would burst. All the people and heroes seeing that would approach Izuku, but he, regaining some control, would start to fly again towards the mountain, and would start to meditate again, while on TV, many reporters thanked Izuku for saving them again from those monsters. Almight and all his classmates, knowing that Izuku saved the city again, would try to find him and thank him, but he would not appear in a whole week, worrying everyone since they have not seen him even once, and they were afraid that Izuku had left the city so that those monsters do not appear anymore. The most worried was Almight, who with the help of other heroes would look for Izuku but would not find him, but one day of classes suddenly Izuku would appear as if nothing had happened. All the students, seeing how Izuku entered his classroom, would go to ask him many things, but when they approached they would receive a face from Izuku that would scare everyone. "Don't come near me, I'm telling you for your own good," said Izuku with his cold voice, and everyone would nod, very scared, and so the classes would begin with the arrival of Professor Osawa. "Very well, today we will have a class to see how much your quirks have improved. Each of you will do a test that benefits you with your quirk, and we will see how much you have improved in this year," said Osawa, and everyone would go to the courtyard where the tests would begin, such as Sai's was how high she could jump, Uraraka's was how much weight she could lift, and for how long, Lita's was how much she could run in the minimum time. Everyone would be surprised by improving a lot compared to last year until it would be Midoriya's turn. He had to lift a square block of about 3 meters that weighed tons and tons and throw it into the sky to see how much he could lift. Some thought it was a lot for Izuku, but with his expressionless face, they would go to where the block was, lifting it with one hand without any effort. Everyone was very shocked and could not believe it. Then Izuku, with the same hand that lifted the cube, would throw it to sky at a high speed. The teacher would look at his cell phone, starting to see the distance and being surprised since the numbers went up at an incredible speed until it came out of the atmosphere, so it could be called infinite, said Osawa, was surprised, leaving the others shocked. "Incredible, Midoriya. You're great. You are very strong, Izuku," were the words of his companions, but that did not matter to Izuku in the least, and he would find himself looking somewhere else, but out of nowhere, he would feel a power so gigantic that it would cross to the human continent, and he would open his eyes in surprise, and he would start to tremble a little. All his companions, upon realizing that, would be confused, but Izuku would look at Osawa with a very serious face and would say, "Do something for everyone in the city to evacuate quickly," he said, shaking a little, surprising the others. "But why?" asked Osawa. "Quick," said Izuku, to which Osawa would quickly go to where the director was telling him what Izuku said, and the very nervous director would put on a microphone and say, "Alert, evacuate quickly, I repeat, evacuate the city right now," said the director, being heard by the whole city, and panicking they would start to run, while Izuku looked at the sky with a very serious face. "What's wrong, Midoriya?" Todoroki said. "You better get out of here if you don't want to die," said Izuku, to which Ida would be about to speak, but they would be caught by the things that Osawa has on his neck and would take them to a safe place. Meanwhile, all the professional heroes were on top of a building watching Izuku to see who was the villain that the green-haired man named, so Osawa would arrive along with the students to where all the heroes were. But everyone would see how the cloud separated and something fell in front of Izuku, raising a large layer of smoke that Izuku would see very seriously. All the heroes would see how a figure the size of Izuku would appear from all the smoke, scaring everyone with its fearsome presence. Chapter Big Surprises. All the professional heroes were watching from the top of a building as something fell in front of Izuku, raising a lot of dust, but Izuku wouldn't flinch and kept his face straight. "I finally found you, so this is where you live now, Izuku Midoriya, or rather Izuku Freaks," said the person where the smoke would spread and a being that imposed respect would be seen. "Damn, the guy I least expected," Izuku said mentally. "What do you want here, Marum?" "And I'm not a freaks now, I'm Izuku Midoriya," the green-haired man said seriously. Say what you want, but you can't change your lineage, said Meruem. I just came to visit you. It's been a long time since I came to the human world. I've sent many beings to finish you off, but it seems you've killed them all. Worthy of a freak, said Meruem with a typical face and you without any expression. Send all the subordinates you want, I'll take care of killing them all, said Izuku, preparing to fight. Calm down, brat, I'm not here to fight bear, otherwise you'd already be dead, just like all the humans who are watching us, said Meruem, looking at the heroes who, upon seeing that Meruem had noticed their presence, would be scared. And why would a leader from the Dark Continent want to come here? Izuku would say. Because I wanted to see how strong you've become, and I see that you haven't changed at all since you returned to this part of the world. You'd better train if you want to protect humans, said Meruem, and he immediately put on his wings and took flight at such a monster speed that only Izuku could barely see. Damn, he could have killed me at any moment. I'd better start training, said Izuku seriously, but he felt like all the professional heroes were starting to go towards him. Who was he? Where did it come from? Why was there such a sinister aura? Were the different questions the heroes asked Izuku, who without turning around would say. It's better that you don't interfere in my business anymore, or I'll kill you myself, said Izuku, turning around and looking at everyone with a murderous face, scaring everyone. This would take a great leap and leave the UA Academy courtyard for some mountains. What's wrong with him? Why did he treat us like this when we wanted to help him? Said some angry heroes. Calm down, he's like that, and if he told us not to get involved anymore, it's because he doesn't want us to get hurt, and he threatened us because he knew we weren't going to listen to him, said Asawa. Asawa-sensei is right, young Midoriya will take care of this, said All Might, and so all the heroes would understand and return to their work as heroes throughout the city, while Izuku would reach the top of a mountain and say the same thing. It would be better if I started by controlling my darkness, and then I'll train that other power, said Izuku, looking at his hands seriously, and so he would start training his darkness and would start missing UA, just like All Might wouldn't see him at home anymore, but everyone knew that he must be busy, so they wouldn't try to look for him. The whole month would pass, and during that month no other monster would try to attack the city, while Issei would be able to train peacefully without being bothered by anyone, and would only be able to control his darkness at 50%. So much time has passed, and I have only been able to control 50% of my darkness, said Izuku, angry with himself. It would be better to try harder, said the green-haired black-haired man. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, there were 5 beings in a room with cloaks that did not allow them to see their faces. Very well, it seems your dear son has trained a little and is somewhat stronger, said one of the hooded men. Don't be too confident, he's very strong, said another hooded man. Do you really believe that? Then I'll send one of my guards to fight him to see how strong he is, said the same hooded figure. Do what you want, but don't get angry if your guard ends up dead, said another hooded man. Well, Izuku would return to UA a month after he disappeared, and he would enter the academy and go to his class, knock on the door, and no one would open it. The black-haired man would open the door himself and would see all his classmates sitting in their seats talking to each other. Well, Professor Asawa was not there. Everyone would notice Izuku's presence, and the first to speak would be Ida. Midoriya, what's this about disappearing for a whole month and then appearing as if nothing happened, coming whenever you want? Lita would say with her typical robotic voice and attitude. Don't bother me, I'm not here to be messed with or die, said Izuku with a more serious face than before, surprising everyone. Izuku would go and sit on his bench next to the window, and he would look outside, while all the other students would continue talking about their things, and some others would talk about how worried they were about Izuku, but while he looked outside, he would hear the voice of someone he remembered very well. Hey, Izuku-kun, Uraraka would say, a little nervous. What does Ichako need? Izuku would ask without turning around, surprised at Uraraka since she called him by her last name. Would you like to go out with me one of these days? Uraraka would say, somewhat red-faced and nervous, to which Izuku, upon hearing that, would turn to look her directly in the eyes. As you once told me, I don't have time for nonsense like that, I have more important things to do than go out with you, said Izuku, turning back to the window. Uraraka, upon hearing that, would feel terrible and her heart would break and tears would start to come out of her eyes, while everyone in the class would see that and would pay attention surreptitiously. Why? Why are you so cruel to me, Izuku-kun? Uraraka would ask, crying. I want to go back to how things were before. She said very sadly. Things will never return to how they were before. I have better things to do, like saving the human race than dating someone who once rejected me, said Izuku, surprising everyone by what he said about saving the human race and making Uraraka sadder by what he said, that things will never return to how they were before. Boo, but me, said Uraraka, but was interrupted by Izuku, who would quickly stand up with an angry face and saying. Damn, right now. He said, opening the window and jumping into the courtyard. All the students, seeing this, would look out the window and see someone descending from the sky very calmly to where Izuku was. Who are you? Izuku would ask seriously, feeling the immense power of that being. My name is Shaypoof, one of Maram Sama's royal guards, and his envoy to finish you off, said the being with very beautiful butterfly wings. Damn, this won't be easy, Izuku said to himself, preparing for his big fight. Chapter Izuku vs Poof. So that damn Maram sent you? Izuku said angrily. Don't you dare insult my king, Shaypoof said angrily, and at great speed, he would get in front of Izuku and kick him in the back, sending him to the sky. At great speed he would get on top of Izuku, joining his two hands and giving him a super blow to the back, making him crash to the ground. All the students who saw that were scared, since Izuku, the strongest of all, was being defeated by that guy, and many of them would go to warn the teachers of the big fight while in the battle. Izuku, when being slammed against the ground, Shaypoof would slowly fall to the ground. That's what happens when someone insults my great king, Shaypoof said seriously, but as the smoke spreads, Izuku is seen standing, smiling a little and with some blood in his mouth. Is that all your power? You only made me draw a little blood, Izuku said, smiling. Damn, said Shaypoof, getting angrier and going to Asia Izuku, throwing a super punch that Izuku would manage to block with his arm with great effort, and with his other arm, he would try to hit Shaypoof in the face, but he would dodge it by crouching down, and with his free hand, he would give Izuku a super punch in the stomach, making him spit blood and moving him away a few meters. Izuku, standing up, would take the blood out of his mouth with his arm. With a more serious face he would begin to increase the one for all and release the darkness, giving a loud scream while around his body a dark aura was seen and everything around him would begin to shake. The entire bed almost fell. Izuku, already angry, would go at great speed to Asia Shaypoof, who would be surprised and would receive a super punch in the face by Izuku. Shaypoof would fly backwards and the green-haired man would quickly get behind the butterfly and, putting his two hands together, would give him a super blow to the face, making him crash against the ground. The force would be so much that Shaypoof's body would bounce against the ground and Midoriya would give him a super kick in the back, sending him into the sky. Izuku would quickly fly to where Poof was, grabbing him by the leg and starting to spin and then throwing him against the small city where the students could practice crashing into a building. Izuku, from the sky, would charge a super attack of darkness, starting everything to shake and launching the super attack that would turn everything it touched into dust and explode where Shaypoof fell. Many heroes who had gathered at the call of the students would be surprised to see this, since this fight was very brutal, and if even one of them got close, they would end up dead, but almost all of them, seeing the great explosion that Izuku launched, would think that the enemy had died, so they would start to celebrate, but nothing could be further from the truth. Among all the dust that had risen, you could see Poof flying with his wings. Izuku would be surprised to see that, since he would think that at least he was a little hurt, but he was only bleeding a little from his mouth. Damn, I've used almost all of my power and it hasn't suffered almost any damage, said Izuku angrily. Damn you, you'll pay for having done this to me in the name of Maram-sama, said Shaypoof, who in a blink of an eye would be in front of Izuku, giving him a super blow to the stomach. Izuku, upon feeling that powerful blow, would put on a face as if he were almost dead. Evil, damn, Izuku would say, trying to grab Shaypoof by the head, but he would appear behind Izuku and, taking Izuku by the head, he would start to fly towards the ground and crashing the green-haired man against the ground with great brutality. Then Poof would take Izuku's foot and throw him into the sky. Midoriya would regain consciousness and stop activating his wings and starting to breathe very rapidly, spitting out blood. He would look at the ground to see Shaypoof, but he was no longer there. Izuku would start looking for him with his nervous eyes, without realizing that he was behind him. Izuku, when turning around, would see Poof right in front of him. The green-haired man would be surprised and would move away a few meters from Poof. Damn, I didn't remember that I could feel presences, Izuku said mentally. Is that all your power? You're a disappointment. If you don't train that other power, you'll never be able to compete against a royal like me or my king, said Poof with his typical attitude. Shut up, you bastard, I won't listen to what my enemy orders me, said Izuku, starting to release all his darkness with a great scream. Poof, seeing that he would be a little surprised, but Izuku, finishing increasing all his power, would go for the butterfly, trying to hit it, but Poof with one hand and with ease he would block it, and then with his other hand, he would give Izuku a super punch in the stomach, making him spit blood. Izuku's darkness would disappear and he would be almost fainted by the powerful blow given to him by Shaypoof, who was carrying him with one hand. You are pathetic, you are not even close to the great leaders of the Dark Continent, said Shaypoof with a serious face, seeing Issei almost knocked out, and he would jump on him and Izuku's body would fall to the ground, strongly knocking him out. Shaypoof would fall and, standing in front of the green-haired man, would say, I have strict orders not to kill you, so for now you're safe, but when they tell me that I must kill you, I will have no mercy and I will not let you hit me even once, said Poof, who would take out his large wings and fly at an enormous speed, disappearing from everyone's sight. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.